When it comes down to population decline, we know Europe has been hit exceptionally hard. And it doesn't really matter if it's Western or Eastern Europe, the whole place is in a major population decline, as well as here in America. But this article focuses on Eastern Europe. This is Mercator.net, and as you can see, damn near all of Eastern Europe is in a population decline. And they have been in one for a few decades. So this is November 11th, 2019. As we discussed last week, the challenge of a declining Russia is one of the stories of the 21st geopolitical century. But directly to Russia's west is another area of the world that is suffering demographic decline. East and Central Europe. Many of these country demographic woes have been discussed before, but we have not really dealt with the region as a whole. Yet from the Baltic and the Balkans through Poland, Hungary, and Bulgaria, there is a half continent that is aging and not reproducing itself and seeing its remaining young leave for jobs elsewhere. Yeah, because y'all don't pay shit. You got that habit all over the globe, too, by the way. The numbers are gloomy. Within Eastern Europe are at least two fast shrinking populations in the world, Bulgaria and Lithuania. Take Bulgaria. In the next 3 decades is expected to shrink from 7.2 to 5.2 million, a decline of 23%. Lithuania has already experienced that sort of population decline. Its population dropped by 23% since 1990. Next door, Latvia. The population has shrunk from 2.66 million in 1990 to 2.38 million in 2000, and less than 2 million today. Wow. I mean, that's the whole countryside? Shoot, we have states in this country with more people. Hungary's population has shrunk by 500,000 since the turn of the millennium, and the UN's population forecaster have predicted that the Polish population will decline by 40% by the end of the century. A large part of the reason for these countries' population declines is immigration. The lure of richer Western European nations with better job opportunities is strong, and the barriers for migration within the EU are few. The relatively poor economic conditions in the East encourage people, especially the young, to leave. And this migration leads to further economic weakness as the working age population of Eastern European nations decline. Lithuania is predicted to have the same number of working age people in 2030 as it did in 1950. By 2040, the region will see a decline in the working age population of 12%, twice the EU average, and much faster than the west of the continent. Fewer people also means fewer mortgages and fewer people consuming, requiring bank accounts and credit. Yeah, I mean, economically, some of these countries are going to collapse because they're not going to have enough people there to sustain the country. And personally, I think many of these countries are not going to exist. They're going to probably merge in with other European nations, but on their own, they're not going to be able to make it. It's not going to be enough people there to even run a government, you know. But that's my personal opinion. I don't think all of these countries you see across Europe will exist. They're going to have to let them go. Some economic analysts predict a drag on growth across the region between 0.5 and 1% per year for the next 2 decades. There will be diminished productivity, reduced public spending on public goods, and the brunt of future national debt falls on even fewer contributors. Of course, one way to increase working age population is to get more women into the workforce. Yeah, and pay people a better salary for real. No, these things are happening because you're stingy. And those young people aren't going to take those little crumbs that you're offering and try to live on that. They got sense enough to leave for a better life. But that runs counter to the goal of increased fertility. Greater female participation in the workforce correlate with declining birth rates. Both Poland and Hungary have chosen to try and increase their birth rates, offering cash incentives for mothers as well as tax break. They have been doing this in Europe, ladies and gentlemen, for decades. And it has not increased the birth rate. Offering money is not going to increase the birth rate. And besides, when you offer money to women to have sex and have babies, isn't that sort of a form of prostitution? I'm just saying. Anyway, it's not working for them. No matter how you look at it, offering money has never increased the birth rate over in Europe. They've been doing this for quite some time. They didn't just start doing this. We have discussed both these attempts on this blog over the last couple of years. This may starve off further population decline. No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, y'all. It's not. Part of the downside of free movement across Europe is that it works to the advantage of the Western nations like France and Germany, which can import the workers they are failing to produce themselves, and to the disadvantage of the poorer Eastern nations who see their young immigrate. Some of this movement westward may be arrested when the farce that has been the Brexit process is finally complete and Britain is no longer in the EU. But even if that happens in the next couple of decades, we will see a world where the East European region will be increasingly devoid of people and subsequently of less weight economically and politically. Yeah. But the West is not doing any better when it comes down to the birth rate, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I know this article is focusing on the East, but the West is really not doing great at all. Those countries are also in a declining birth rate. One beneficiary is this medium-term future is Russia. It may have its own struggles with a declining influence in the world, but will still be in an excellent position to assert itself with its near abroad in Eastern Europe. And it's near abroad in Eastern Europe. But these places cannot change. They're not going to be able to save themselves, y'all. I heard about Europe's population decline back in the 80s and 90s. This has been going on for a very long time. If they were able to really truly stop this thing, don't you think we would have seen it by now? How come we're not seeing it? Because they can't. They can't stop this from happening. They can't. This has gone well beyond a few decades now. And even here in the US, the decline started back in the 1950s, ladies and gentlemen, here in the US. And they have not been able to stop it here. So, what makes you think they're going to stop it in Europe or anywhere else they're declining it globally? Because this is a global decline. And that should be an indicator that this has a lot to do with genetics as well, which they are not touching that. They keep talking about the aging population and how the young keeps leaving and paying money to women to have babies and better policies for women that have babies, on their jobs. None of this stuff has worked. None of it. And it won't. But y'all, please tell me what you think about this article. It's very serious, especially when you see these articles coming out all the time, and we see it all the time. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.